At 6:15 a.m. on January 22nd, 1940, somewhere in the frozen forests near Kollaa, Finland, a Soviet patrol of 9 soldiers moved through the snow. The temperature was 42 Celsius. They wore dark brown uniforms that stood out against the white landscape. They carried Mosin-Nagant rifles. They had scopes. They were trained. They were disciplined. None of them would survive the next 6 minutes. And none of them would see who killed them. 150 meters away, buried in a snowdrift, Simo Häyhä watched them through iron sights. The 34-year-old farmer had been in this position since 4 a.m. 2 hours, motionless, invisible. He wore a white snowsuit. No scope on his rifle, just iron sights. In his mouth, he held snow. The snow kept his breath from forming vapor clouds. Vapor revealed position. Position meant death. Häyhä had already killed 219 Soviet soldiers in 53 days of war. Today, he would kill 9 more. If you want to see how an ordinary farmer became the deadliest sniper in history, hit that like button. Subscribe for more impossible true stories. Back to Häyhä. Simo Häyhä was born December 17th, 1905 in Rautjärvi, a farming village in southeast Finland, 8 kilometers from the Russian border. His family were farmers, Lutheran, quiet. His father, Juho, owned the Mattila farm. They grew rye and potatoes. They raised livestock. The farm was isolated. The nearest town had 400 people. Häyhä was the 7th of 8 children. He attended school in Miettilä village until age 14. Then he worked the farm full-time, standard for rural Finland. Nothing remarkable. Except one thing. Häyhä was a hunter. Finland's forests were dense. Pine, spruce, birch. The forests held elk, deer, fox, wolf, bear. Hunting provided meat for winter. Hunting also developed skills that would prove critical. Patience, reading terrain, understanding wind, judging distance without thinking, shooting accurately. Häyhä hunted from age 12. By age 20, he was exceptional. He could remain motionless in sub-zero temperatures for hours. He could shoot a running fox at 400 meters. His neighbors called him the best hunter in Rautjärvi. They had no idea what was coming. In 1925, at age 20, Häyhä completed mandatory Finnish military service. Every Finnish male served 1 year. Häyhä served in the Civil Guard, Finland's volunteer defense organization. The Civil Guard trained civilians for war. Finland expected war. Russia had controlled Finland until 1917. Finnish independence was recent. Russian threats were constant. The Civil Guard prepared for inevitable invasion. Häyhä's military training emphasized marksmanship. Finnish Army doctrine prioritized rifle accuracy. Every soldier qualified at 150, 300, and 500 meters. Häyhä exceeded all standards. At 150 meters, he hit targets 97% of the time. At 300 meters, 89%. At 500 meters, 72%. His instructors noted exceptional accuracy and unusual calmness under pressure. This wasn't excitement. This was the same calm he showed tracking elk through frozen forest. Häyhä completed service in November 1926. He returned to farming, but he continued training with the Civil Guard. He attended shooting competitions. He won repeatedly. By 1939, he had won multiple Finnish national championships. His competition rifle was a Mosin-Nagant M2830, the Finnish modified version of the Russian Mosin-Nagant M91. Manufactured by Sako, the Finnish arms company, the M2830 was more accurate, better trigger, better sights, better stock. Length 46.5 inches, weight 9.6 pounds. The rifle fired 7.62 51mm cartridges. Muzzle velocity 2,600 feet per second. Effective range 500 meters with iron sights, 800 meters with scope. Häyhä never used a scope. He preferred iron sights. Scopes could fog in extreme cold. Scopes glinted in sunlight. Scopes required raising your head higher, exposing more silhouette. Iron sights were simple, reliable. Faster. Häyhä could acquire targets and fire in 1.5 seconds with iron sights. The average sniper with a scope took 2.8 seconds. Speed would matter. From 1926 to 1939, Häyhä lived quietly, farming, hunting, shooting competitions. He was 5 feet 3 inches tall, weight 150 pounds, small by Finnish standards, quiet, reserved, introverted. He didn't drink alcohol. He didn't smoke. He attended Lutheran church. He was unremarkable except for his shooting. His neighbors respected him. They liked him. No one expected him to become a legend. No one expected war to transform a farmer into a ghost. Then on November 30th, 1939, the Soviet Union invaded Finland. November 30th, 1939, 8 a.m. Soviet artillery shelled the Finnish border. Soviet Foreign Minister Vyacheslav Molotov claimed Finland had fired first. This was false. It was pretext. Joseph Stalin wanted Finnish territory near Leningrad. Finland refused Stalin's demands. Stalin ordered invasion. The Red Army deployed massive force, 1 million soldiers, 3,000 tanks, 3,800 aircraft. Finland's entire military numbered 300,000. No tanks worth mentioning. 114 aircraft. The numerical advantage was overwhelming. 3 Soviet soldiers for every Finnish soldier. The world expected Finland to surrender within 2 weeks. Finland didn't surrender. Finland fought. Simo Häyhä received mobilization orders on November 30th, 1939. He reported to his Civil Guard unit in Miettilä. He was assigned to 6th Company, JR 34, Infantry Regiment 34. The regiment deployed to the Kollaa River sector, 50 kilometers north of Häyhä's farm. The terrain was forest, dense, frozen. The Kollaa River was the defensive line. If the Soviets crossed Kollaa, they would advance toward Viipuri, Finland's second-largest city. Losing Viipuri meant losing the war. Häyhä's mission was simple. Stop the Soviets. Kill anyone crossing the river. Don't let them advance. The Kollaa sector was considered critical. If the Soviets breached the Kollaa line, they could attack the Mannerheim line from behind, collapsing Finnish defenses. The problem was the Kollaa wasn't really a river. It was a creek, a small stream. It offered no natural defense. The ground around it was frozen solid, too hard to dig proper trenches. Finnish soldiers built shallow foxholes and slit trenches. They prepared for the worst. The Soviet 56th Rifle Division attacked on December 1939. Approximately 14,000 Soviet soldiers versus 4,000 Finnish defenders. The Soviets attacked in waves. Soviet doctrine emphasized overwhelming numbers. Human wave tactics. Casualties were acceptable. The first wave crossed the frozen Kollaa River at 6:30 a.m. Finnish machine guns opened fire. 800 Soviets died in the first hour. The survivors retreated. The second wave attacked at 9 a.m. 600 more Soviets died. The third wave at 11 a.m., 500 more dead. By nightfall, 2,400 Soviet soldiers were dead. The Finns suffered 68 casualties. The exchange ratio was 35-1. The Soviets had tanks, artillery, air support. The Finns had rifles, terrain knowledge, and absolute determination. Häyhä participated in this first battle as a standard rifleman. He fired 42 rounds. He estimated 12 hits, not confirmed. Just estimates. But Häyhä noticed something. The Soviets moved predictably. They followed roads. They bunched together. They exposed themselves. His hunting experience taught him that predictable prey dies easily. Soviet soldiers were predictable prey. Häyhä requested transfer to sniper role. His company commander, Lieutenant Arne Juutalainen, approved immediately. Juutalainen recognized exceptional talent when he saw it. Häyhä became a designated marksman on December 9th, 1939. He would operate independently, select his own positions, engaged targets of opportunity. His only restriction was to stay within 500 meters of Finnish lines. Häyhä accepted. He began hunting. Häyhä's first confirmed kill as a sniper occurred December 10, 1939, at 7:23 a.m. A Soviet officer was organizing a patrol 250 meters from Finnish lines. The officer was visible through trees. Häyhä was prone in snow. He aimed. He exhaled slowly. Between heartbeats, he fired. The officer fell. The patrol scattered. Häyhä didn't move. He waited. At 7:31 a.m., a Soviet soldier approached the dead officer. Häyhä fired again. The soldier fell. The patrol retreated. 2 kills. Häyhä recorded them in his personal log. He recorded every kill. Date. Time. Range. Conditions. The log was methodical. Clinical. Like a farmer recording harvest yields. Over the next week, Häyhä developed his technique. He operated alone. He left Finnish lines before dawn. He moved 200 to 400 meters toward Soviet positions. He found concealment, a snowdrift, fallen trees, dense brush. He prepared his position carefully. He cleared snow from his muzzle area. Muzzle blast disturbs snow. Disturbed snow reveals position. He packed snow tightly around himself. He left only his rifle barrel and head exposed. Minimal silhouette. Then he waited. Soviet patrols moved through the forest daily. They followed trails. They sought Finnish positions. They were targets. Häyhä fired at ranges between 150 and 400 meters. He preferred 250 meters. At 250 meters, the 7.62 mm round had 2,100 feet per second velocity. Bullet drop at 250 meters was 7 inches. Wind drift minimal. He aimed center mass, chest shots. The bullet's energy at 250 meters was 1,250 foot-pounds, sufficient to penetrate Soviet winter uniforms and kill instantly. He averaged 5.3 kills per day in December 1939. This was extraordinary. The average sniper achieved 0.8 kills per day. He was 7 times more effective. His method was consistent. Fire once. Wait. Observe. If additional targets presented, fire again. Never fire more than 3 rounds from one position. 3 shots maximum before relocating. More than 3 shots allowed enemies to triangulate position. After 3 shots, Häyhä withdrew 50 meters. He established a new position. He waited. Sometimes Soviet return fire hit his previous position. Artillery, machine guns, mortars. The Soviets destroyed empty positions. Häyhä was already gone. But Häyhä's techniques went beyond basic fieldcraft. He understood that in 40° temperatures, breath creates visible vapor. Vapor reveals position. Soviet counter-snipers watched for breath vapor. So Häyhä held snow in his mouth. The snow kept his breath cold. No vapor formed. He was invisible. He also understood muzzle flash. When rifles fire, they create a flash. The flash is visible. Soviet observers watched for flashes. Häyhä packed snow in dense mounds in front of his rifle. The snow absorbed muzzle flash. It also prevented the characteristic puff of disturbed snow that reveals a sniper's position. These weren't standard techniques. These were innovations born from necessity and experience. These were what made him a ghost. By December 22, 1939, Häyhä had 87 confirmed kills. His company commander verified each one. Verification required witness or direct observation. Häyhä operated alone. Witnesses were rare. But his company observed Soviet casualties when reclaiming positions. The dead matched Häyhä's reports. The kills were real. The Soviets began noticing. Patrols found dead soldiers. Single gunshot wounds, center mass, headshots. No sounds before death. No muzzle flashes seen. The soldiers died from invisible threat. Soviet officers interrogated survivors. Survivors reported nothing. They heard 1 shot. 1 soldier fell. They took cover. Sometimes another shot. Another soldier fell. They never saw the shooter. The Soviets called him Belaya Smirt. White Death. The name spread. Soviet soldiers feared the Kollaa sector. They knew White Death operated there. They didn't know White Death was one man. They assumed a team. 6 to 8 snipers. How else could one position kill so many? It was incomprehensible that one farmer with iron sights was killing entire patrols. On January 8, 1940, Soviet command deployed counter-sniper teams to Kollaa. These were specialized units, trained snipers with Mosin-Nagant 9130 PU rifles. The PU was a scoped variant, 3.5 times magnification. These snipers had orders: find White Death, kill him. The teams operated in pairs, one spotter, one shooter. They used standard counter-sniper tactics: observe suspected sniper positions, wait for muzzle flash, return fire immediately, suppress or kill enemy sniper. The tactics were sound. They failed completely against Häyhä. The problem was Häyhä's method. He fired from prone positions deep in snow. His muzzle was below snow level. When he fired, the muzzle blast dissipated into packed snow. No visible flash. The sound was muffled. Soviet counter-snipers heard shots, but couldn't locate origin. They watched suspected positions. Häyhä wasn't there. He was 50 meters away, already relocated. The Soviet snipers were hunting a ghost. They never found him. The Soviets tried artillery. If counter-snipers couldn't find him, artillery would saturate suspected areas. On January 15, 1940, Soviet artillery bombarded a 500-meter section of forest where Häyhä operated. 200 shells, 120 B-2 howitzers. The bombardment lasted 30 minutes. Trees shattered, snow churned. The forest was destroyed. When Finnish scouts checked after the bombardment, they found Häyhä 800 meters south. He had observed the artillery preparation. He moved before the shells arrived. 0 casualties. The Soviets wasted 200 shells. The Soviets tried infiltration. Small teams would move at night. They would establish ambush positions along routes where White Death operated. When he appeared, they would kill him. On January 22nd, 1940, a Soviet team of 8 soldiers infiltrated 300 meters behind Finnish lines. They established positions at a trail intersection. They waited. At 6:45 a.m., Häyhä approached. He was 180 meters from the Soviet ambush. He stopped. Something was wrong. Hunters develop instincts. Häyhä's instincts said danger. He withdrew. He circled 400 meters east. He approached the intersection from a different angle. At 7:30 a.m., he observed the Soviet ambush team. They were watching the trail. Their backs were exposed. Häyhä shot 4 of them before the others fled. The ambush failed. By February 1st, 1940, Häyhä had 2 CY-19 confirmed kills. The Soviets increased their efforts. More counter-sniper teams, increased artillery bombardments, patrols specifically to hunt White Death. All failed. Häyhä adapted faster than the Soviets. When they deployed counter-snipers, he changed positions more frequently. When they used artillery, he operated from deeper positions. When they sent hunter patrols, he hunted the hunters. His kill count increased. February 1940 was Häyhä's deadliest month. The weather was coldest. 40 to 45 degrees. Soviet soldiers wore heavy winter uniforms, brown uniforms, brown against white snow, visible at 500 meters. Häyhä exploited this. He increased his operating range. Instead of 250 meters, he engaged at 350 to 450 meters. The longer range meant Soviet return fire was less accurate. It also meant Häyhä needed exceptional marksmanship. At 400 meters, bullet drop was 22 inches. Wind drift at 10 meant 20 km was 8 inches. Häyhä compensated automatically. Years of hunting made the calculations instinctive. Throughout February, Häyhä maintained his routine. Leave Finnish lines at 4:44 a.m., move to pre-selected position, establish concealment, wait for targets, fire maximum 3 rounds, relocate, repeat. He operated 6 to 8 hours per day when daylight allowed. In Finnish winter, daylight was limited. Sunrise around 8 a.m., sunset around 4 p.m. 8 hours of hunting light. Häyhä used every minute. Finnish sources state that early in December, Häyhä managed to kill 51 enemy soldiers in just 3 days. His company commander, Lieutenant Colonel Tiitanen, initially didn't believe the numbers. They seemed impossible. Tiitanen ordered an official observer to follow Häyhä. The observer confirmed the kills. They were real. When Häyhä approached his 200th kill, his promotion to junior sergeant was suggested. The troops had already nicknamed him the Magic Shooter. But to the Soviets, he remained White Death. By February 21, 1940, Häyhä had 387 confirmed kills. This was extraordinary. The Winter War had lasted 83 days. Häyhä averaged 4.7 kills per day. No other sniper in history had achieved this rate. Estimates suggested the previous record holder had approximately 150 kills across multiple years. Häyhä had more than doubled that in less than 3 months. He was the deadliest sniper in history. And the war wasn't over. But February 22, 1940, was when Soviet command changed tactics. They stopped trying to find Häyhä. Instead, they decided to eliminate the entire area where he operated. Soviet artillery began sustained bombardment of the Kollaa sector, not targeted strikes, saturation bombardment, every day, 4 hours per day, 500 shells per day. The objective: destroy the forest, remove cover, make sniping impossible. The bombardment continued for 12 days, February 22nd through March 5th, 1940. 6,000 shells destroyed 3 square kilometers of forest, trees obliterated, snow mixed with shrapnel and dirt. Visibility increased. Cover decreased. The Soviets succeeded in making the terrain less favorable for snipers. Häyhä adapted. He moved to new positions daily. He dug shallow fighting positions. He operated at dawn and dusk, when light was poor. He reduced his exposure time. Instead of 8-hour watches, he operated for 90 minutes maximum. He fired fewer rounds per position, 2 shots instead of 3. His kill rate decreased slightly, but remained significant. Between February 22nd and March 5th, 1940, he killed 73 more Soviet soldiers. His total reached 460. The Soviets had transformed the terrain. They had increased counter-sniper efforts. They had dedicated artillery and air assets to finding him. None of it stopped him. March 6, 1940, 6:32 a.m. Häyhä was in a firing position 290 meters from Soviet lines near Kollaa. Temperature, 38 degrees. Light snow falling. Visibility 400 meters. He had been in position since 5 a.m. 92 minutes. He had fired 4 rounds, 3 hits, 1 miss, 3 Soviet soldiers dead. He was preparing to relocate. At 6:32 a.m., a Soviet patrol appeared. 6 soldiers. They were moving carefully, searching, looking at trees, at snowdrifts, at ground irregularities. They were a hunter patrol, looking for snipers. Häyhä observed them. They were 320 meters away. Extreme range for iron sights. He calculated the shot. 22 inches bullet drop. 12 mph wind from the left. 9 inches wind drift. He aimed high and right. He fired. The lead soldier fell. The other 5 soldiers immediately took cover and returned fire. Not random fire, disciplined fire. They had seen something. The muzzle flash. The snow disturbance. Something. They fired at Häyhä's position. Approximately 40 rounds in 15 seconds. Several rounds hit near Häyhä. He couldn't relocate. The fire was too accurate. He was pinned. Then, at 6:33 a.m., 1 round hit. A Soviet bullet struck Häyhä's face. The bullet entered his left cheek. It traveled through his jaw. It shattered multiple teeth. It exited through his right cheek. An explosive bullet designed to cause maximum damage. The hydraulic shock from the bullet's energy tore tissue throughout his lower face. His jaw was destroyed. His tongue partially severed. Blood filled his mouth and throat. He was choking. He couldn't breathe. He was dying. But Häyhä didn't die. His brain registered the hit. Pain was irrelevant. He had one priority: survive. He needed extraction. He couldn't call for help. His jaw was destroyed. He couldn't speak. He needed to reach finish lines. 290 meters. He needed to move. At 6:34 a.m., Häyhä began crawling. He left his rifle. He crawled through snow. Blood poured from his face. It created a visible trail. The Soviet patrol saw the blood trail. They advanced. They wanted confirmation. They wanted to verify they had killed White Death. Häyhä crawled 50 meters in 2 minutes. The Soviet patrol was 200 meters behind him. Closing. At 6:37 a.m., Finnish machine gunners on the defensive line saw Häyhä crawling. They saw the Soviet patrol pursuing. The Finns opened fire. 2 Maxim machine guns, 7.62 bombifia, meter R, 600 rounds per minute, sustained fire. The Soviet patrol took cover. The Finns maintained suppressive fire. Finnish soldiers ran forward. They reached Häyhä at 6:39 a.m. They dragged him to Finnish lines. The Soviets withdrew. Häyhä was alive. Barely. Finnish medics treated Häyhä at the regimental aid station at 7:15 a.m. His condition was critical. Massive facial trauma. Blood loss. Severe airway compromise. Blood and tissue filled his throat. He couldn't breathe properly. The medics established an emergency airway. They couldn't intubate. His jaw was too damaged. They performed a field cricothyrotomy. They made an incision in his throat below the larynx. They inserted a tube. He could breathe. Barely. The medics stabilized him. They evacuated him to a field hospital 15 kilometers behind the lines. He arrived at 9:30 a.m. Surgeons assessed his injuries. The bullet had destroyed his left mandible. His right mandible was fractured. 6 teeth were gone. His tongue was lacerated. Soft tissue damage was extensive. Blood vessels were severed, but had clotted. The clotting saved his life. If the bullet had severed his carotid artery, he would have died in 90 seconds. The bullet missed the carotid by 8 millimeters. 8 millimeters was the difference between death and survival. Surgeons operated for 6 hours. They removed destroyed tissue. They set fractures. They sutured lacerations. They couldn't reconstruct his jaw immediately. That would require multiple surgeries over years. They focused on saving his life. The operation succeeded. Häyhä survived. But he was incapacitated. He couldn't speak. He couldn't eat. He was fed through a tube. He drifted in and out of consciousness. Initially, his fellow soldiers believed he was dead. The Soviets spread the news as propaganda. Finnish newspapers reported his death. On March 13, 1940, 1 week after Häyhä was shot, Finland and the Soviet Union signed the Moscow Peace Treaty. The Winter War ended. Häyhä regained consciousness that same day. He read a newspaper article announcing his own death. He sent a letter to the newspaper to correct the misunderstanding. The White Death was still alive. Häyhä remained in hospital until July 1940, his jaw partially healed. Surgeons performed 3 additional operations. They reconstructed his jaw using bone grafts. They rebuilt his left cheek. The reconstruction was partially successful. His face was permanently disfigured. His left cheek was collapsed. His jaw was misaligned. He could speak, but with difficulty. He could eat, but slowly. He would never look the same. But he was alive. On July the 17th, 1940, Häyhä was discharged from hospital. On August 28, 1940, Field Marshal Carl Gustav Emil Mannerheim personally promoted Häyhä from corporal directly to second lieutenant. This was extraordinary. Enlisted men didn't skip ranks. But Häyhä wasn't an ordinary soldier. Mannerheim also presented him with the Cross of Kollaa. This was Finland's highest military decoration for winter war service. The medal ceremony occurred in August 1940. Mannerheim asked Häyhä how he became such a good shot. Häyhä replied with one word: practice. Typical Häyhä: quiet. Understated. Häyhä couldn't return to his farm. Rautjärvi was now Soviet territory. Finland had ceded 11% of its territory to the Soviet Union. Häyhä's family farm was lost. His family had evacuated. They relocated to Ruokolahti, 80 kilometers west. The Finnish government compensated families who lost land. They provided new farms. Häyhä received 50 acres. He built a small house. He farmed. He hunted. He lived quietly. In 1941, Finland entered the continuation war against the Soviet Union. Häyhä wanted to serve. The army refused. His injuries were too severe. He couldn't serve in combat. Instead, he was assigned to training duties. He taught marksmanship to new snipers. He taught camouflage, fieldcraft, patience. His students asked about his techniques. He demonstrated. He emphasized simplicity. Iron sights, consistent position, breath control, calm. His methods worked. Finnish snipers in the continuation war averaged 2.3 kills per day, higher than any other nation's snipers. Häyhä's training contributed. After the continuation war ended in 1944, Häyhä returned to farming. He lived in Ruokolahti until his death. He never married. He lived alone. He hunted occasionally. He attended veterans' gatherings. He was recognized, respected. But he remained humble. He refused interviews. When journalists asked about the war, he said, "It was my duty. I fulfilled it. That is all." Häyhä's final confirmed total: 542 Soviet soldiers killed, 505 with his rifle, 37 with his Suomi KP-31 submachine gun in close combat during patrol actions. 542 confirmed kills in 98 days of combat. 5.5 kills per day average. This record has never been broken. The next highest sniper total is approximately 500 kills by Soviet sniper Ivan Sidorenko in World War II. Sidorenko operated for 4 years. Häyhä operated for 98 days. If Häyhä had served a full year at the same rate, he would have killed approximately 2,000 men. The mathematics are staggering, but Häyhä didn't serve longer. He was shot, he survived, he served 98 days, 542 kills, 5.5 per day. No other sniper has matched this rate. No other sniper has matched this total in such a short time. In 1998, at age 93, Häyhä agreed to one interview. A Finnish historian recorded it. The historian asked if Häyhä regretted killing 542 men. Häyhä said, "I regret that the war happened. I regret that men died. But I don't regret my actions. Soviet soldiers invaded my country. They would have killed Finns. I stopped them. That was my duty." The historian asked if he felt like a hero. Häyhä said, "No. I was a soldier. I followed orders. Heroes are men who sacrifice themselves. I survived. I'm just a farmer who learned to shoot." Simo Häyhä died April 1st, 2002. He was 96 years old. He died peacefully in a veterans' nursing home in Hamina, Finland. He had lived 62 years after being shot in the face. 62 years after the Winter War ended. He outlived the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Finland remained independent. Häyhä contributed to that independence. His funeral was attended by 300 people: veterans, politicians, journalists. The president of Finland sent condolences. Häyhä was buried in Ruokolahti. A simple grave. No elaborate memorial. Just a headstone with his name, birth date, death date, and one word: soldier. How did one farmer kill 542 trained soldiers in 98 days? The answer is multifaceted. First, Häyhä had exceptional marksmanship. Years of hunting developed unconscious competence. He didn't think about shooting, he just shot. Muscle memory, instinct. Second, he had infinite patience. Farmers understand patience. Crops grow slowly. You wait. You don't rush. Häyhä applied farmers' patience to sniping. He waited hours for one shot. Third, he operated alone. No distractions, no coordination required. He made all decisions. He moved when he wanted. He shot when he wanted. Independence increased effectiveness. Fourth, he understood terrain intimately. He grew up 8 kilometers from Kollaa. He hunted those forests for 22 years. He knew every trail, every hill, every clearing. Soviet soldiers didn't know the terrain. They followed maps. Häyhä knew where good positions were. He selected positions Soviets wouldn't expect. He fired from positions Soviets couldn't predict. Fifth, he exploited Soviet weaknesses. Soviet tactics were rigid. Patrols followed patterns. Häyhä learned patterns. He positioned himself where patrols would appear. He waited. They appeared. He fired. Pattern recognition was key. Sixth, he maintained absolute discipline. He never fired unless conditions were perfect. Perfect meant target clearly identified, range known exactly, wind assessed, escape route planned, finish lines within reach. If conditions weren't perfect, he didn't fire. Patience, discipline. Other snipers fired at marginal targets. They revealed positions. They died. Häyhä only fired at certain targets. He stayed hidden, he survived. But the most important factor was mindset. Häyhä saw sniping as problem solving, not combat, not war, just problem solving. Problem: Soviet soldiers invading Finland. Solution: kill them before they kill Finns. He approached sniping like hunting. Hunting isn't emotional. You don't hate elk. You just kill them efficiently. Häyhä didn't hate Soviet soldiers. He killed them efficiently. This psychological distance allowed him to function at peak effectiveness for 98 days. He wasn't traumatized. He wasn't conflicted. He was solving a problem. 542 problems solved. Then he was shot. Problem interrupted. Then peace treaty. Problem ended. He returned to farming. Next problem: grow potatoes. Same mindset. Different problem. Today, Häyhä is remembered in Finland as a national hero. But Häyhä wouldn't want that label. He would want to be remembered as he was. A farmer, a soldier. A man who did his duty. Nothing more, nothing less. The 542 kills are statistics. The important thing is Finland survived. Finland remained independent. Häyhä contributed. That was enough for him. That should be enough for history. Modern snipers study Häyhä worldwide. American, British, Russian, Israeli. All study his techniques. The lessons are timeless. Patience overcomes technology. Simplicity beats complexity. Iron sights at 250 meters with perfect fundamentals beats scoped rifles at 500 meters with poor fundamentals. Calm under pressure. Adaptation to conditions. Understanding terrain. These principles haven't changed. Häyhä proved them in 1940. They remain valid today. Häyhä also demonstrated Finnish concept of sisu. Sisu is difficult to translate. It means determination, perseverance, refusal to quit despite impossible odds. Finland had sisu, 300,000 Finns versus 1 million Soviets. Finland fought. Finland survived. Häyhä embodied sisu. Shot in the face destroyed. He crawled 290 meters to safety. He survived. He recovered. He taught. He farmed. He lived 62 more years. Sisu. Refusing to die, refusing to quit. Persevering. That is Häyhä's ultimate legacy. Not 542 kills, but surviving. Living. Continuing. Refusing to be defeated by war, injury, or circumstance. The Kollaa and Simo Häyhä Museum stands today in Miettilä at Rautjärvi. Visitors can see Häyhä's rifle, his uniform, his medals. The museum preserves his story, because stories like this deserve to be remembered, not for glorifying war, but for understanding what humans are capable of when defending what they believe in. One farmer, one rifle, 542 enemy soldiers, and they never saw him fire. If this story moved you, hit that like button. Every like tells YouTube to share these forgotten stories with more people. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We're preserving true stories of extraordinary people every single day. Drop a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from. Have you heard of the Winter War? Let us know you're here. Thank you for watching. And thank you for making sure Simo Häyhä's story isn't forgotten. These heroes deserve to be remembered. You're helping make that happen.